Well, just the other day, I got a call from someone just asking me about some discipline ideas and tactics and ways of really just talking to your kids to help them listen to you better. So here's what I suggested to the person, because one of the most important things for me is this key phrase. And if you remember this key phrase, it'll help you to identify and then work out what is the best discipline structure for the child at the time. Because you can't have one discipline structure. Like, just say, for argument's sake, you send them to timeout. And every time they misbehave, they go to timeout. I think that sometimes, firstly, I think each child will determine what discipline structure is needed, as well as the occasion of the infraction. So sometimes you need to have a variety of discipline techniques that are going to get the desired result with the child, because not every child will respond to timeout, and not every incident will be effective with timeout. So we've got to look at saying, okay, how do you determine what is the best thing at that time? So what I suggest to people is this. Think about this key phrase. Discipline without relationship breeds rebellion. So think about that. Every time you discipline the child and your relationship is not in a good place, so your relationship is, sometimes there is no relationship. So some parents, I found, especially when they come into blended families, so one of the parents hasn't taken the time to build up a relationship with the child of the other parent. And so then they want to discipline them. And then they get rebellion. So here's what you've got to look at. So if your discipline structures or your discipline technique is causing the child to behave even worse, then you may not have a discipline problem on its own, but you may have a relationship discipline problem. So let me explain. If you discipline a child and there's no relationship, it pushes the child, because discipline in and of itself pushes people away. It's not something that pulls you in. Okay, discipline is designed to push away. That's why it's very important that once you have finished with that discipline and the child has gone through that discipline process, so they've spent their time on timeout and they've come out of it. Now it's time to come out. They can come off the chair or whatever. It's important for you to re-engage with them, to sit with them and say, do you understand why you had to go to timeout, and explain to them and tell them that you love them and give them a hug, and then reconnect with them. Now, if you don't do that, that pushes the child further away. So if you just tell them, okay, get off the chair or go to your room or leave me alone or whatever, because you're still angry with the child, it keeps them at a distance. It never brings them back. Now, if you put multiple discipline occasions on top of that, you're causing the child to move further and further away, which keeps the child disconnected. And then at a later stage, so when they're teenagers, there's no connection there at all, because you've never built on that relationship. Okay, so the relationship has to be a priority. So we need to be doing things on a regular basis that intentionally building on relationships. So remember that what you sow, you reap. So sometimes the behavior that you're reaping over here is a result of what you've sown over here. Okay. So sometimes if you don't like what you're reaping over here, you need to go and change what you're sowing. So if you're reaping disconnection and disobedience and rebellion and whatever negative behavior, you may need to say, okay, what have I been saying? Because if you're saying discord and shouting and screaming and that, there's going to be a result from that. Okay, very seldom are you going to have a disconnected, disobedient, rebellious child constantly, if there is lots of love and connection and stuff like that. Now, I'm just talking about biological children. Okay, I'm not talking about adopted, and I'm not talking about blended families. I'll talk about that at another stage, because there's different aspects that need to be taken into account. Okay, so the relationship is key. We need to be intentional about building relationship, doing things, building on that, spending time with them, being positive, saying positive things, being encouraging, making sure that we are telling them that we love them, being physical when we love them, so hugging them. And that needs to be happening from a very young age. So often what I found with men and fathers is they don't do that when the child is young. They only do that when the child is much older and the child can actually respond to that. And sometimes that's too late because they haven't built up that connection yet. And it's important because the child already at the age 4 starts to disconnect from the mother and need to connect to the dad. And if the dad's not available to do that, then there builds a disparity there. So discipline without relationship breeds rebellion. So sometimes the behavior that you're getting may not be because of a disobedience issue, or it may not be a behavioral issue. It actually could be because they are needing to connect. They're needing a relationship connection. So sometimes you may find, so say you've been away for 5 days. You come back and the child misbehaves. Instead of being happy that you're there or enjoying the time with you, they kind of are being naughty. They're not listening to you. Your discipline structure is not working, and you've like, what is going on? And so then you discipline that. So you become harsher and you become strong in your discipline, because now sometimes what we do is when our discipline structure is not working, so we send them to timeout and it doesn't work, we become harsher, so we give them a hiding, or we shout louder, or we scream, or we take their phone away for a month. So we become extreme with our, and that then creates a negative effect. Okay, so you start to you start to reap even more negative behavior. So sometimes what we need to do is we need to try and determine, okay, is this behavior originating from a naughty place, a place where the child is being rebellious and just being naughty, and I need to deal with it accordingly? Or is it because they are needing connection, they're needing my time, they're needing my attention, they're needing my undivided attention, focused on them? Because if we are able to identify that, then it will change our discipline, and then the relationship will also come back into alignment again. So if you've been away for 5 days, the relationship is out of alignment. So that's why it's important that if you are away, and you are going away even for a night, is to maintain contact with your children, to keep that relationship going, to make sure that you speak to them, to make sure that you, even as young as they are, even if they're babies, they can't even speak, okay, make sure that your wife puts the phone next to their ear, and they hear your voice. Hello, my baby, I love you, I miss you, I can't wait to see you again. We think that doesn't have any effect, but it has a huge effect. Research has shown that has a massive effect on a child. They've actually done research to show that when a parent, a father, speaks to the child when the child is still in the mother's tummy, and they speak to the child on a regular basis, just speaking to the child at the tummy, you bend down and you talk to the mother's tummy, it creates an understanding in the child that when the child has come out, what they did was they did an experiment with a couple of babies, children whose parents had not spoken to them when they were in the mother's stomach, and fathers who had not spoken to them when they were in the tummy, and fathers who had. And they came up with an interesting result. Is they saw that the children that the father never spoke to, when he would walk into the room and speak, the child would not react. When the mother spoke, the child would react, because the child is connected to the mother. Now, on the other side, the fathers who did speak to the child, when the father walked into the room and the child heard the voice, the child would automatically turn towards that voice. So don't think that your voice is not heard and not important. So here's what you can do. If you're finding that your child is misbehaving and you're not quite sure, is this naughty behavior or is it attention? Does it need attention? So often you'll hear parents say, it's just attention-seeking behavior. And if that's negative behavior, then you need to find out why he's continually doing that. He's feeling for some reason, for whatever reason, whether real or perceived. Remember that it may not be the truth that the child feels that they are disconnected or out of touch, or they're not being cared for enough. But they perceive it like it. So we've got to help correct that perception, because they don't have enough neurological pathways and dendrites in their brain and memories stored in their brain to give an accurate picture of what is going on in their lives, how much you care for them and how much you love them. We've got to constantly reinforce those things with them. So here's what you can do to help identify whether that is. So if the child is misbehaving, now obviously this is going to take a bit of time, and obviously it's going to take more time and energy than it would do to just say, okay, go to the grow good chair, give the kid a hiding. So, but you've got to determine whether you want a short-term solution to the problem and a rocky relationship, or do you want to have a long-term solution to the problem and a very connected relationship? Because if you want to have a long-term correction and a good discipline structure and a solid relationship, you're going to need to put the energy, you're going to need to be intentional. You're going to need to put the energy in to get that. Okay, it doesn't just come out, it doesn't just happen. It's like you expecting, you just throw a seed out there and expect a tomato tree to grow. No, you've got to actually do the work to get it. Okay, intentional, that's what we've got to do. So what you'll do is, you'll say to the child, they've been misbehaving or doing something. You say to them, if you choose to continue doing that behavior, you're going to choose to go to the grow good chair. So you use those specific words, if you choose, because you want to make the choice theirs, because you want to teach them that there are consequences to their choices and there are consequences to their actions. So when you say if you choose to do that, you are choosing to, it puts the responsibility in their court. And when they stop and they look at you, or they maybe even continue doing that behavior, then you call them to you and say, come sit here with me, tell me what's going on, and try and talk to them and try and engage with them, get down to their level, especially if they're toddlers, and actually just engage with them, look at them in the eye, ask them what's going on, what's happening, how are you feeling, it seems like you're very upset right now, what is it that I can do to help you? It seems like you are angry and you know it's not okay to throw things, so what can I do to help you? And if the child continues to do that without wanting to respond to that, it may be just misbehavior and not actually a relationship that needs to be established, and then you deal with it normally. It doesn't mean that they won't go to the grow good chair, even if you pull them in and you're working on that. It doesn't necessarily mean that they won't go to the grow good chair. It just means that they won't go to the grow good chair every single time, and they won't necessarily go to the grow good chair straight away. And then also they may go to the grow good chair with less anger and forcefulness from your side. I hope that makes sense, and I hope that helps you understand a little bit about developing a strong relationship. Remember the key: discipline without relationship will breed rebellion. So work on the relationship. Be very proactive in doing something in building that relationship up. Great to chat to you. I hope this has been helpful, and look on this channel for more of videos in a very same vein. Chat to you on the other side.